Welcome. How's everybody doing tonight? Southern California is full of untold stories, but even more that go unheard.
Authentic first-person experiences of life in Southern California. Real people amplified.
Each show is unique because of who's involved and where we are. Some of our folks are experienced storytellers. Many are not. And for some, this is their first time on stage or speaking in public.
And tonight's show is reflective of the range of voices, experiences, and perspectives of those involved.
Together, we explore our region one story at a time.
A special thank you to the California Wellness Foundation for their generous support of this project.
No show would be complete without a host. Please join me in welcoming your Unheard LA host, Bruce Lemon.
Welcome to Unheard LA, a deeper listen. I'm your host, Bruce Lemon, and we are live from my garage, joining you in your home as we're all still in the midst of this pandemic. I even brought along a mic to give myself that at home on stage feel. We'll be back together someday soon, but in the meantime, we felt the need to commune with our community with a special 3-part virtual version of the show where we reconnect with some of our alumni. We're coming together from all over SoCal and would love to know where you're safer at home. So if you're near your keyboard, go ahead and type it in the comments or shout it out to yourself proudly in the car. I'm broadcasting from Watts, and the Unheard LA team is spread across our region from San Dimas to Pasadena to Leimert Park to Hawthorne to Glendale to West Athens to Silver Lake to Baldwin Hills and beyond. So, SoCal, let us know where you are. All right, we got some coming in the feed here. We got Compton in the house. Good to see the East Side represented. Yeah, we got some folks in Highland Park. All the communities that make SoCal what it is, and we're so glad to have you all here. Listen, y'all, there's so much we need to talk about and listen to. Some hard conversations and some more difficult battles ahead. After the death of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Tony McDade, Elijah McClain, and too many more human beings at the hands of police, the spike in hate crimes, disproportionate death rates amongst Black and brown people due to COVID-19, or rather our historic systemic inequalities that continue to put us at high risk, and the looming election, America has erupted in protest, rightfully so. Some for the right to get haircuts or not wear masks, others for the right to live. Now that we have each other's attention, we felt this is a time to revisit some of the stories that have been shared on Unheard LA stage that reflect on the ways in which racism has shaped the lives and experiences in Southern California. A deeper listen that I hope can lead to a deeper understanding, compassion, and change. We'll hear from and be joined by Candace Nicholas Lipman, Dante Mitchell, Janae Williams, along with Dana Almahier, co-editor and developer of Race in LA, for a live conversation that we want you to play an active part in by asking questions in the online chat. Now, arts and activism together have been a driving force throughout much of this moment, inspiring change in our lives and in our country, bringing us together like we're supposed to be by reminding us that we aren't there yet. We knew our first storyteller tonight had to be a part of this conversation. So, to get us started, here is I Pledge by Candace Nicholas Lipman.
Hey, y'all. I'm an actress, spoken word artist, and a youth educator. I love being an artist. I love being able to use my art to inspire and to make a difference. And I love that art is subjective. Amen? The poem I'm going to share with you all is an example of me using my art, my voice, to stand up for what I believe in hopes of empowering you all to do the same. So here it is, my poem, titled, I Pledge. I work at an elementary school. In a beautifully diverse classroom, they've now reinforced the room that everyone must stand to pledge allegiance to the flag. So there I rise, with 24 little lives, turned to set my eyes on the blue, red, and white. The teacher then instructs us to place our right hand across our chest, but all of a sudden, I feel conflicted. Let me say this, that what I'm going to address in this poem is in no way a reflection on those who have fought and sacrificed, who have given their lives for my freedom and rights. I am grateful and I salute you. I'm just sharing my truth. So there I am, standing before this flag, conflicted, and they began to pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
My hand never made it to my chest. No words left my lips. I myself was surprised by this reaction. Something in my spirit just couldn't connect to what they were pledging. I felt the teacher's gaze upon me, but she wouldn't understand, nor could she see that I wanted to take a knee, to stand in solidarity with Colin Kaepernick, who was not only benched, but stripped of his entire NFL career because he stood up for what he held dear, which was justice in America. And yes, I understand. It was the Star-Spangled Banner he was protesting, but if you think about it, it's all the same. That song, this flag, it's all meant to represent liberty, justice, and equal treatment for all. But that is not America. When we have the Muslim ban or a wall being built, and we must never forget Sandra Bland, Alton Sterling, Trayvon Martin, Oscar Grant, Philando Castile, Michael Brown, Freddie Gray, Shelley Frey, Tamir Rice. Tamir Rice, who was only 12 years old when they took his life. No convictions. You want me to pledge to this? Or how about the fact that I am an American, but I'm not accepted because of the color of my skin? No matter how patriotic I try to be, all you see is my black poverty. No matter how much I straighten my hair to cater to your perception of beauty, I will always be a black monkey. No matter how many college degrees or big words I learn, I'll never be accepted into your America. Fictional character Annalise Keating says it best: racism is built into the DNA of America. This is black and white, no gray areas, and I can't pledge to this flag. I can't pledge to the hypocrisy. This is supposed to be home of the brave, land of the free, a country full of unlimited possibilities, but I believe that only applies to the privileged elite. We are not indivisible. We are not one nation. I'm so sick of this conversation. We should be progressing, but instead we're like children, making the same mistakes again and again. Police brutality, cultural appropriation, systemic racism, prejudice, injustice. When will it end? I'm different. You're different. We're different, and that's what makes this country beautiful and unique. We should be celebrating, but instead, there's a superiority complex in which we can't and won't accept and appreciate these differences. So until you can, no longer see me as this second class, burdened to society, or the great black enemy when I'm seemingly accepted as your form of entertainment, stereotyping and mimicking black culture, appropriating our lips, hips, and naturally bomb swag, killing off black men and women like Call of Duty on a PlayStation. I won't pledge to this. I pledge to continue to use my voice. I pledge to rise up against the injustice, to spring forward towards progression, to bring awareness, raising our consciousness in hopes that we can truly live by what this flag represents: equality, justice, in an indivisible nation. Because remember, always remember, I too am America. Hey y'all, I'm an actress.
The streets of Compton provide the beat for our next storyteller to detail his growing up and first experiences with those charged to protect and serve. To tell his story, here is Any Day by Dante Mitchell.
It was a dark morning in Compton, California, and I found my 9-year-old face submerged in the moist dew of my best friend's lawn, while 2 officers held us at gunpoint. I remember the rush of adrenaline, followed by feelings of disdain towards the officers. Vivid images of my grandma, Victoria, detailing the death of her adopted son, Daryl, at the hands of Compton policemen decades earlier, flashed through my young head. 31 shots. There, I lay, a child with my hands and my feet sprawled out with the feeling that, to these cops, my life is dispensable. From that experience as a young child, I adapted a biased opinion about cops. Growing up, I had family and friends that would join law enforcement, and I respected their decision, but never aspired to join the force myself. I would be stopped by the police, and on most occasions, I would get frustrated and pull what some cops would label the race card. Fast forward 17 years later from that cold morning in Compton, I find myself a straight male bouncing in West Hollywood bars. The area of West Hollywood is a prevalent LGBT community, and as a bouncer, I was not always people's best friend. Some conceptualize that when kicking them out, I was attacking them for their sexual orientation, based on their personal experiences with people who look like me, a straight male. This experience put me in the shoes of some law officers that would stop or detain me if I had committed a crime. When stopping me, they were simply just doing their jobs. The year is 2016, and life as a young Black American continues to be hard to savor. There have been a number of high-profile police killings of unarmed Black and brown American citizens over the last half-decade. A routine traffic stop by officers for a broken taillight somehow lands me, a backseat passenger in the vehicle, in jail for the evening. I am released from LA's 77th Division after being held for 6 hours. It's 1 a.m. and I'm late to my overnight shift as a security officer near USC at a local children's clinic. I arrived to my shift at 2 a.m. and after walking halfway to work, I still have a head full of steam. Emotions and feelings that were harboring for a lifetime came out through a piece I wrote that evening. The short narrative would become the verse for my song, Any Day, urging young men in my community to stay out of the streets and continue to create a better life for themselves each day, for it can be taken away at any moment. Spark a flame, they could hardly match us. Lamert parked the track up, rhymes on automatic. Life's a dark path illuminated by God's light. Feeling my vibe, critics giving me 5 mics. Those ghetto birds eclipse skylight. Make those LA days seem as cold as shy nights. Now reporting live, another shooting on the south side with tears pouring. Why was his mother's pleading outcry? Nightmares of demons cleaning out my soul. Anointed, I don't look before I cross the road. Shell toes on my right and ones on my left. On his mic, I earned stripes from putting rappers in check. My homies got scars from shoved shanks in their neck. We didn't have the money to cop, bape, and be fresh. When you hear that thunder, bolt. Cops aiming at blacks like there's targets painted red on our backs. We getting chipped, Frito-Lay. My mother always told me it would be okay, just bow on your knees and pray. But Pops always told me, Pops always told me, get your money, stay up out the way, because any day, that can be your day.
Since our first show in 2017, I've gone from a fade to twists to braids and now these locks. This crown is identity. It's precious and it has its stories. Here is the 100th Unheard LA story, Unheard LA by Janae Williams.
Ooh, honey, yes, slay. Serve the girls, I am gagging. I talk to my hair the way I wish drag queens talk to me. My relationship with my hair hasn't always been as affirming as it is now. Like many Black women, my childhood was replete with pressing combs, burns from pressing combs, hair relaxers, burns from hair relaxers, and the general unspoken, highly racialized agreement that my hair, as it grew out of my head, was a problem that needed to be fixed. It wasn't until I hit my late teens that I stepped off the straightening Stairmaster and came to accept and then appreciate and then adore my natural hair. I have spent countless hours reading books, scouring websites, experimenting with coconut oil, jojoba oil, castor oil, vitamin E oil, avocado oil, shea butter, cocoa butter, mango butter, bananas, beeswax, raw eggs, raw honey, mayonnaise, apple cider vinegar, baking soda, yogurt, deep conditioners, leave-in conditioners, hair masks, gels, creams, serums, and pomades. Back when I first went natural, the cultural landscape wasn't the same as it is now. I couldn't just pop on a YouTube tutorial and learn about hair typing or porosity or different curl management methods that exist. I had to be both student and teacher in learning what my hair was and how to take care of it. Okay, now let me tell you what happened. In February, I found myself with a day off, which I must admit is one of my favorite ways to find myself. It's true. I love some hashtag self-care, which is different than regular self-care because hashtag self-care is the kind you put on Instagram. So I went to get a pedicure in El Segundo. I needed to wait 15 minutes before being seen, and in the interest of killing time, I wandered around the shopping center and stumbled into a salon. I'm not going to say the name, but let's just say that it is a very major salon. I'll call it AV for short. You see, as much as I love my hair, which is very, very much, I don't love the color, which is as black as February, and prematurely gray, because genetics are fun. My point is, my roots were growing in, and I thought, hey, Janae, instead of doing a box dye at home, why not take a page from Parks and Recreation and treat yourself? The receptionist at AV Salon was a lovely woman with voluminous wavy hair that could have categorized her as Latinx or Middle Eastern or spicy white. After we talked over the prices, she gave me a card and wrote down 5 names on it. You should ask for one of these people when you book, she said, because they're all comfortable with ethnic hair. What she did in that moment seemed nice. It wasn't. A few days later, I made the appointment with one of the people on the list, a master stylist who I'll call M. M was a very personable Mexican-American man. He matched my color perfectly and my interest in drag queens. I liked him. If it weren't for the fact that he didn't know anything about my hair. Remember that scene in Clueless after Cher and Dion adopt a tie, and she turns to them and says, "You guys, I never had straight friends before." And they nod back and smile, clearly confused by the word she used, but appreciative of what they assume her intent was. That was the same bemused look that M gave me when I told him that my hair was 4A, 4B, and high porosity. While the coloring was perfect, the styling was bad. Very bad. Like, I'm going to have to cancel the rest of my day to go home and fix this bad. As I sat on my floor detangling my hair that evening, I first asked the ancestors for forgiveness for allowing that foolery to happen to me. And then I thought of the contradictory duality of being highly visible and yet unseen. Blackness is everywhere in America, and yet somehow black hair is still an elective at cosmetology school. It's still something that only a quarter of stylists at a very major salon are comfortable with. My friends asked me why I didn't just go to a black salon to begin with. I want to know why I have to.
Well, now, let's have a conversation. Allow me to introduce you to the award-winning designer, developer, and data journalist, Dana Unheard. She's the data editor for KPCC and LAist and co-editor and developer of Race in LA. Here to tell you more about that project and frame our conversation. Dana, take it away.
Thanks, Bruce. Race in LA is a new series from KPCC LAist that launched in June. We ask Angelenos how race and identity shape their day-to-day lives and have them tell us about their lived experiences in a personal essay. These essays are written both by community contributors and LAist staffers, and we publish one each Friday. Our goal is to fuel meaningful and ongoing conversations about race.
Thank you, Dana. Now, let's bring in our storytellers. Come on back out. Candace Nicholas Lippman, Dante Mitchell, and Janae Williams. It's good to have you all here, y'all. So we're just gonna have a conversation. Welcome back. It's been a long time since we've gotten to connect in this manner, especially I'm missing you all backstage. I'm wondering what has happened to you since then. Has anything changed since you were last on the Unheard LA stage, sharing your stories with the rest of our audience? And this is open to anybody, whoever would like to go first.
I'm gonna say, unfortunately, no. Things haven't changed. We're still fighting oppression. We're still in the same struggle. My poem is just as relevant today as it was in 2018 when I performed it. So.
Yeah, and I've still been pulled over by cops without warrants, and just like Candace said, as a people, we're facing so much racism and disparities to this day.
Maybe I'm the only one who has something somewhat positive in terms of after the show, the Crown Act passed, which is an amazing piece of legislation that basically protects Black women, but anyone from discrimination for how you wear your hair naturally. So that is a change that I basically feel responsible for. You're welcome, State of California.
Thank you. I would definitely give you that. It's quite striking that up until what, maybe a year ago from like 2 weeks ago, it was perfectly legal to discriminate based on what is on my head, what is on your head, like how you wear your hair, which is insane. This is 2020, y'all. And Dana, do you have anything that you wanted to add?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to present to the group. I mean, why do you guys think it's taken so long for things like the Crown Act to really come into play? I mean, there are things like, cosmetics lines, like expanding their lines to include darker shades. I mean, there's other examples of other companies stepping up to improve their diversity to customers. I mean, have you guys experienced any of that, or what do you think of that?
Well, I think that it took so long for this legislation and for other legislations that we're fighting for, because you can't break systemic racism, systemic institutions in like a week or a day or so. And with how readily information is given to us in these situations and how we can all build camaraderie through the internet, we don't have to necessarily be in the same city. We can find like minds and get the ball moving with petitions and other forms of communication.
Yeah, I think to that point, when you look at the history of this country and you look at segregation, for example, it's really easy to not know that something is a problem if that problem isn't happening next door to you.
Right.
Exactly.
And I feel like the more that we have come together, the more that we see each other, the more that we see the struggles that other people have, then, you know, those conversations can happen and change can happen.
Right.
Candace, did you want to add something to the conversation?
She literally said exactly what I was this is why it's taking so long, is because for those to see, if they don't realize that there's a problem, they don't see that there's any reason to fix anything, you know? So she said exactly what I was going to say. So, yeah.
You know, even with that fact, you know, if you look at the footage that is propelled the nation to all of a sudden pay attention, like it's not much different than the footage of police murdering Black people that have been dominating the airwaves for the past couple of years. Like, what is it about this moment in time? Is it the fact that we were in a pandemic and we all had to sit still for a minute? Is that what it was? Now people have to pay attention. And it's also this there's been a real surge in development as far as like the Confederate flag being banned from NASCAR and streets being painted and things being renamed and Band-Aid has Band-Aids for us now. Like all of this stuff that is that was suddenly not possible is happening so quickly. Even when we talk about the Pledge of Allegiance, you know, the NFL, they blackballed Colin Kaepernick.
Right.
And then just a few weeks ago, apologized saying they were wrong. Do you have, go ahead. Yeah, please.
You want to know the difference now? This is going to sound really weird saying this, but now it seems like everyone is finally watching. What happened to like Ahmaud Arbery, which that was a modern day lynching caught on camera. And then what happened to George Floyd, this is the same thing that happened to Rodney King. And that was on video. Do you know?
Yes.
Because of the pandemic, I feel, this is how I feel, especially even with the pandemic, that it has forced the world to stop and have to pay attention. And I feel like, me just being a big person of faith, I feel like God did that intentionally, you know, and that all of this stuff happening is not by accident. So all the stuff, like I said, has been happening with Rodney King. What happened to him was caught on tape, but the world still just kept moving. Like it just kept moving. Now you're sitting at home and you have to sit here and watch these soulless cops take this man's life, you know, and now we finally have everyone's attention, which is, I feel like, is the difference from all the other cases that we've seen, where we've seen it all on video before. None of this is new. We've seen it for years and decades, you know, like none of it's new. But now I think what you said, Bruce, about the pandemic has forced us to stop and really pay attention now.
And I think too, there's a line that Mos Def has that I'm going to paraphrase because I don't remember it exactly, but he talks about, it's about the straw that broke the camel's back and how it's not that straw, right? It's the million others that are beneath it.
Right.
And so I think there is something to the fact that you've seen this, and then you've seen this one, and then you've seen this one, and then you've seen this one, and then you've seen this one. And so it's about that cumulative effect over, you know, really the life of this country. But if we're looking, you know, just since Rodney King, for example, even just in that amount of time, the number of names that there have been, just that we know of, is unbelievable.
Do you guys feel like, I know each of you has sort of touched on it in a different way. Do you feel like the Black community in particular, or Black and brown people, are targeted in a specific way in society by police or by aspects of society in a way that other groups don't have to deal with? I mean, how does that shine through for you guys through your lived experiences?
I for sure think Black and brown people are targeted, for sure. And I feel like the reason why we're targeted is because we're feared. So when people fear something, you don't know how to deal with that. So the way to deal with it is just to eradicate it. Let's just get it out the way. We're afraid. We don't know what they can do, what they're capable of. Let's just remove them altogether. So that's the biggest thing for me, is the fear. And then of course, just the ignorance.
And like, how many of you have heard of police officers, ex-police officers, talking about quotas and that they have to hit a certain number of quotas, right?
Right.
Do you feel, Do you feel like at this moment that we're looking more just at overt acts of racism, or do you feel like we're also shining a light on, like, we've got capital R racism, but we've also kind of got this lowercase r racism? Do you feel like it's all being pushed to the forefront, or do you feel like we're still, you know, focusing on just the overt acts?
I feel like. Oh, go ahead, Candice.
No, go ahead, Dante.
Oh, please, Dante.
Yeah, Dante.
Well, I also wanted to say about the first question that you posed. We had all talked about yesterday how the history of the police is from slave catchers, from slave patrols, specifically for Black people. So yes, we are targeted. Yes, that is an institution that was built to oppress us specifically. So when people talk about defunding the police, like, yes, that's a great thing, but it's more effective for us as humans to eradicate that system, because it's just not meant to protect us in its origins. It didn't have us in mind. It had another group of people in mind. And this is a country that has more than one race. And when there's an institution that can take somebody's life and it's not punished for it, or it's not looked at or condemned, you know, that's just an attack on humanity in the whole. And that's just all I wanted to say.
You know, and I wonder, Dante, maybe you can tell us about a bit in reference to your piece, because that fear that we're told is felt by this force that is taking lives on a daily basis. There's also another fear that is placed within us early on. When I heard your story, it sounds like a story that I could tell, or a story that my brother has told, or a story that I can't tell you. I mean, I should go through this at some point and maybe tell it on our stage, but I've had so many bad interactions with law enforcement in front of my house, you know, and it's always been like this since I was a small child. Do you feel anything in your piece that may resonate differently with you today?
You know what? I do. Not in my piece necessarily. Everything in my piece is basically just like a story about what happens in inner city. But when I was introducing my piece, I did mention that I was like comparing myself as a bouncer to a police officer, and the whole pulling the race card thing. And I don't want to be inconsiderate of our ancestors that we have lost, like Breonna Taylor, Atiana Jefferson, Michael Brown, Tamir Rice, the continuous list of people that have been killed by cops. Me as a bouncer, I don't take anyone's life. The most I do is kick them out of a place that they were at, like a bar, a club or something. My actions or me stereotyping someone doesn't come with the same consequences as law enforcement. And yeah, that's pretty much the only thing I would change. As far as the piece goes, like Candice, unfortunately, it still pertains to what we are facing right now in America. So, you know, I feel like all of our pieces as a culture, as a people, are pieces of this pain will always remain timeless until, you know, we make that change in society and these systems of racism that we have that are ruling this country.
Actually, Dana, I wanted to come back to the question that you had about little r racism, because to this point in my life, at least, I feel very lucky that I have not had very many, really, if any, like majorly racist incidents happen to me. However, if we're talking little r racism, oh my God, I can't count. And one that is the most prominent for me is I studied film when I was in college, and in my screenwriting class, freshman year of college, I will never forget this, we were told explicitly that all characters are to be assumed white unless you as the writer write it otherwise. Now, I was in college 1.5 million years ago, so maybe, hopefully, that's something that has changed and they aren't still teaching that. But that is such a small thing, that's such a major thing, because representation matters, right? And the kind of people that you get to see, the kind of people that you learn how to empathize with, that matters when it then turns into policy. That matters when it then turns into Karen, right? If you only see people of color, whether it be Black folks, Latinx, Asian people, Native American, if you only see them in certain ways, then it's easy to not pay attention to them. And the same thing with what I was saying about segregation. If you don't live near those people, and then the only time that you do see them in the media is when they're being portrayed negatively, it's, you know, it's no shock that you're going to have these negative perceptions.
You know, with that point, I kind of question even the concept of there being big R racism and little R racism, because the little things turn into the big things, and there's a normal, it's normalized in a sense. Like I can look back and see things from my childhood, see that things that I saw growing up that I didn't know at that moment was racist, or the system that we interact with every single day that were built with white supremacy, that built with racism, built with all of it, like intimately involved in the nature of how these systems work. We interact with them every single day. You know, like there is no effort that needs to be given by Americans in this country to and be involved in racism. It's the air we breathe. Right. You have to push against it at all times. So I question these little things, this normalized. I think the little R racism are the things that are just normal, that we almost don't even notice, because it's just
right.
It's like the macro. It's like the microaggressions become the macro part of racism. Totally. That othering slowly turns into the more overt acts of racism.
Yeah, I mean that othering turns into policy, and that's when we get different treatment, to where a group of people, specifically Black people in this country and our indigenous people in this country, become and are treated as second-class citizens. You know, and it's also very alarming that is what happens when Black culture is popular culture.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
when we take Black culture and sort of turn it into something that's near and dear to us, and turn it into a source of like entertainment or a sort of a joke for other people. I mean,
I'm thinking of that woman. Oh, what was her name? I want to say it was Sweetie Brown. Ain't nobody got time for that woman.
Sweet Brown.
Yeah.
And I remember when I heard that news clip the very first time, it didn't even register with me, because that was so regular. Like there was nothing remarkable about ain't nobody got time for that. Like, oh, that's just a thing people say. It's like, hello. And the fact that then turned into this meme, I know for me during that time, I felt kind of uncomfortable, because I wasn't sure where the laugh was. Like, were they laughing with her, even though she wasn't laughing, or were they just laughing at her? We were all supposed to just participate in that in pop culture.
Yeah, sort of in that, along the same lines of sort of appropriating culture. It's interesting, the experience that you had with your hair, Janae. The fact that there's so many people outside of the Black community who want to wear more traditionally Black hairstyles, but then there are so few people who actually know how to do Black hair. I mean, can you talk about that a little bit?
It is very funny to me that disconnect. And actually, funny enough, just today, someone posted in a group that I'm in, a woman, I'm not sure where in the world she is, if she was here or the UK or whatever, but she, whatever her name was, it was like Layla Starr, but she came up with the Layla Starr method, which is basically a sew and weave. And so the Black women who were in this group were posting about it to say, are you serious? And then everyone who wanted to then go to that woman's page said that she had turned off all the comments. And I thought, well, why? I mean, if you invented sew and weaves, don't you want to hear from everybody, right? It's
right.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
I did not know that happened. That is a surprise.
It was literally today. I saw that.
Wow, today.
Oh my God. See, that makes me think of this idea of representation that we were talking about a little while ago. The fact that, you know, if we don't see people like us doing, you know, making representation normalized, it's sort of like when we see, you know, people appropriating the culture, it's sort of like, well, it's not a weird thing. It's not a strange thing. It's sort of like, oh, okay, well, that's a totally new thing. So and weave, that Layla whatever method, that's legit. It's not that it's existed forever in the Black community.
Right.
So, oh, go ahead, Candace.
That cornrows, the big lips, the big booty, having hips, all this stuff that Black women naturally have that I was always teased for growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And now having it. And if you are not Black and you have all of these features, that is seen as beautiful. But it was the Black woman. And then even more so, our Black brothers, they want that. The fact that she has all the Black features and then she's not Black, oh, that's a gold mine, because we can go into a whole nother conversation how the Black men on Black women. You know what I mean? So that's a whole nother thing. So let me not take
that's a whole nother special.
That's a whole nother conversation.
That's a whole nother special.
Okay, I feel very passionate about that. But I will say, I mean, a lot of us are artists, and when it comes to like how Janae with her poem with the hair, and Janae, you already know, I feel you 1000% when it comes to our hair as being a Black woman. Even being in the industry and me going to set and not having anyone in the trailer who can do my hair. That is really confusing to me. And then still me feeling like I'm some different species or there's something about my hair. It's like alien almost for it to be picked and prodded. And like, do you not understand the feeling like how embarrassing that is to be in a trailer and you're seeing your other white counterparts and then the person doing your hair is holding it up like this and like, oh, so what do I do with this?
Like your hair is like calculus.
Yeah.
That literally happens to me when I go on set, and it's gotten to the point now where I go to my hairstylist before I get the hairstyle approved by production, and I already go on set with my hair done. The thing, even with edges or using, you know how we use our toothbrush to get them edges like it's like little stuff like that. They're like amazed and like, oh my gosh. And Lord forbid if I wear my hair in a big old afro. That not only is that seen as, oh my gosh, it's so amazing, it's also viewed as a threat. I've literally had people look at my hair, follow me around because I'm wearing a hoodie and my hair is in an afro, get out of an elevator with me because my hair is in an afro. I was delivering Postmates. This is a true story, y'all. I was delivering Postmates to this girl. I walked upstairs. I knocked on her door. She opened her door. No lie, I can't make this up. She opened the door. She said, ah! And I was like, whoa. Like, no. She literally said, she was like, oh my God. Your hair scared me. That's what she said to me. And it was just so, like, it was nothing, like, no, oh, I'm sorry. Like, she didn't see that as rude or nothing. It was just, and I felt so badly, like, wow, my hair scared you. So it starts not even just with our skin color, but the way we wear. I even say it in my poem. No matter how much I straighten my hair, you will always see me as a Black monkey. There's nothing. I've received discrimination on the job, working regular jobs, working at the hotel, working in the school system. If I wear my hair, I had my white manager tell me before I had the long, you guys know how we wear the box braids. He literally pulled me in his office. He said, if I see you with those again, I will cut them myself.
Whoa.
Yeah.
What?
Yes.
Just say you want to die. That's
right.
That's insane.
I reported him. Yeah.
Wow.
Man.
Wow.
I reported him to HR. Sorry about that, guys. Something happened.
No problem.
Can you still hear me?
We can still hear you. We can still hear you.
HR and HR said they could do. They said there was nothing they can do. just don't wear your hair like that.
This was this a little more than a year ago before we got the Crown Act?
Yeah.
A couple years ago. Yeah, just a couple years ago. Wearing my hair fro hawk. They were like, your hair it's not, you're not in dress code. It needs to be, this is literally what it needs to be, it's, just tamed. Your hair needs to be tamed.
Tamed.
Yeah, your hair you're out of dress code with your hair. And my hair was like in a fro hawk, type of thing. But a white woman at my job could walk in with the same braids or the same hairstyle and nothing is said to her.
It's stylish or whatever.
Oh, goodness.
That's so cool. That's so cool, Bethany, or whatever.
Before we move forward, I just want to throw out there to our audience, if you have some questions you want to ask, go ahead and type them into the comments in the chat, and we will try our best to get to them while we continue this conversation. Go ahead, Dana.
So I have a question, I guess, on a little bit more on a serious note. In Dante and in your piece, you recount this, this really traumatic memory of your uncle and his death, and the stories that you heard of him growing up. I know that he passed away before you were born, and you talk about how that sort of shaped your perception of police. I'm wondering from the group, like, what other things have shaped your perception of police, maybe growing up and even into today? Like, how you've looked at police sort of changed maybe over time, or have certain things happen that have made it more negative, made it more positive, or made it kind of go back and forth?
Well, I would say personally, my mom works for the city and therefore right next to a police station. So I grew up with officers knowing me and knowing my mom and stopping me when I was walking home from school just to say hi or whatever. And so I had that kind of idealized police relationship, so to speak. I did have a cousin who was killed by the police. Still not really clear on what the actual story behind that was, but that was separate. It was very this one-off thing in my mind. And even up until this just happened recently, I was looking through Facebook memories, which I love because then I can delete anything I've said that's problematic before I'm famous. So I was, I'm saying, because Chrissy Teigen's all caught up right now. Anyway, so here's a whole thing. I was going through my memories a few days ago and I saw one from 2016. That was a time when Snoop and the Game were going to meet up with the LAPD and do a whole outreach program, something. And at the time, I felt like, yeah, this is great. You can be pro Black Lives Matter and pro cop, and those are compatible positions to have. And I would say, fast forwarding to now that I've actually looked into the history of policing and looked at it not in this few bad apple way, but in this, systemic way, I said, oh no, delete. Oh no, because you can't be pro Black lives and pro an organization that targets and diminishes and extinguishes those Black lives.
Yeah, you can't apply a personal solution to a systemic problem. And as far as the police go, there's no way we can continue to send good people into a bad institution and trust that those people are going to be able to turn this institution around and change it before it changes them. It's just not going to happen. That's why reform doesn't work. Reform has not worked. I have no belief that reform will work because it's always fought against. It's always been fought against. I don't believe it's possible. That's why defunding and an abolishment is the only thing that Bruce Liman personally believes in.
Just like that situation in Buffalo. I think that was a perfect example of what you're saying, where with the older gentleman who the police pushed over, right? And then that video is horrific.
Yeah.
Absolutely horrific. And I think the worst moment isn't even when you hear his head crack against the concrete. The worst moment is when that one cop goes to try to help him and is stopped. That to me is like, we have to really recontextualize what violence is, because violence is not breaking into a store. And I'm not saying everyone go out and break into stores, but violence is being told that you can't finish your school day because of your hair. It's your boss telling you that your hair is a problem. It's having that natural human desire to want to help, negated. It's having that stopped before it can happen. And so just like you were saying, Bruce, that person presumably is a good person, but he went into that system and that system stopped him from being able to be a good person. So then you got to throw away the system.
Totally.
I literally witnessed something like that firsthand. I went to a BLM protest and it ended up in a riot. It was horrible. It was the most terrifying experience ever. And the thing that I cannot get out of my head is that we were all protesting peacefully, like literally everything that we see on TV, how it goes from 1 to 1,000. I witnessed it firsthand. My friend and I, we're all protesting peacefully. Next thing you know, we're all like kind of being blocked off into this circle. All the cops are out there in their riot gear. They got their guns drawn. We were protesting peacefully. There was this Asian cop. And this is the thing, I understand how you feel, Janae. It's like that dichotomy of like how two things can't really exist. Like, how can I still believe that there are good cops, but be for Black lives? And because of who I am in the faith that I have, I struggle with that within myself in terms of not making this generalizing or making this general here that all Black cops are like all cops are bad. And I really saw that at that protest, because there was one of the protesters was just agonizing this cop, like just agonizing, just antagonizing, and we're trying to tell him like, stop, look at this. And I'm screaming, look at this cop's face. All I saw was his humanity. In his face, his eyes were red. He looked like he wanted to cry. And in that moment, it was so hard because I was struggling within myself. Because I'm there, I'm angry. You guys are sitting here causing this riot. We were protesting peacefully. But here was this Asian cop that looked like he wanted to cry because I don't think he even wanted to do that. So just like to the cop with the guy in Buffalo, where I saw that where he went down to help the old man and the other cop pulled him up and told him no, and they just walked over him. It's really hard to exist in those two spaces, where they're not all bad. But what makes it bad is that you still don't stand up to say, no, this is wrong. I'm still going to help this man. And that's where I have to make the switch. Like, okay, you're still guilty by association because you don't stop it. Just like all those other cops that helped to kneel down on George Floyd. Any one of y'all could have stopped them and got that man off his neck. I literally even say in my poem, those called to serve and protect have now become the boogeyman. That's how I see police. I cannot make this up, y'all. I will literally be driving. And when I tell you, how like when you're scared, it's like that sudden, like your heart tightens and you're just, whenever I see a cop or if I see them following me, I'm like, okay, everything is legit. I'm good. I got my hands on, 10s and 2s. I'm not on my phone. Like everything's fine. But still how none of that matters. I could still get pulled over, which has happened, They're the boogeymen to me now. They're not the first ones I think of now that if I'm in danger, who do I call? I don't feel safe calling them.
I had an incident once where I was home alone and I heard someone knock on the door and I wasn't expecting anyone, so I didn't go. And then I heard this, and someone was trying the door, like aggressively trying the door. And I was scared, right? And I sat there and I thought, is someone trying to break in? Should I call the police? I guess so. I mean, this was maybe 3 years ago, I think. So before kind of my current consciousness. And I called them, but even 3 years ago, I thought, did I just sign my own death warrant calling them?
Right.
I don't know. And I like, honestly, I really had to think that through. I mean, there are pictures of me around here. I look like I live here, right? But maybe this is the worst thing I could have done, but also maybe it's the best thing because it's someone trying to break into my house.
So I have a question for you all. I know we've talked about, in this moment of, Black Lives Matter and this moment that has been galvanized by, Breonna Taylor and George Floyd and countless others. And I mean, it's obvious that it sounds like dismantling and defunding the police and trying to tackle the system itself is what you all are advocating for. But in terms of trying to heal the actual relationship between the Black community and the idea of the police in terms of protecting and being for public safety, do you think that that's possible in this moment or moving forward?
No.
Or has the damage just been done?
I think reconciliation is possible if we get convictions. If they show us that they're willing to change, reconciliation can happen. But until Breonna Taylor's killers are charged and convicted, until Elijah McClain's killers are charged and convicted, until you show us, okay, you guys, we finally hear you, we finally get it, we're going to stand up and we're going to stop. We're going to go through extra training. We're going to make sure that we get the bigots out of the police force. We're going to make sure that those who have murdered and slaughtered innocent Black people are charged and convicted. Then we can talk about reconciliation. But until that happens, no, we are still at war, because you're not saying what that flag is saying does not apply to me, does not apply to my brothers and sisters. And until it is liberty and justice and freedom for all, no.
Yeah, and that might take a couple more 100 years of it going the other direction. Dante, you were about to jump in and weigh in on that?
Yeah, I just feel like for me personally, reconciliation is just out of the window. The foundation of the police system, the foundation of this country is based on the idea of people who look like all of us in this group chat are a commodity for the country. We're not considered an entity where we can provide something of intellectual independence and be a part of the country and gain finances and gain sovereignty to protect ourselves. That's the problem. We have no protection. So we can say like, oh, a bully came by and pushed me and he broke my arm. But if he pays for my hospital bill and turns himself into the cops, then, but once he gets out, I'm going to trust him again. It's still going to be the same person. So always going to be that chance that we can be discriminated against, especially running under this country, running under the laws and constitutes of this country. We're not protected at all. So it's not something that I would consider reconciling, knowing the full history of my lifetime, of my experiences, ancestors before me, of people today. So
yeah, and folks that are looking for more information, that like it's all out there. Like we've been asking for the same thing for about as long as books have been written, about as long as people could speak, and it's just been centuries of no real change, or just changing the style of oppression. Like that's not going to be enough. And arresting and convicting one or two of the high profile cases isn't going to do the job either. You got to get those high profile cases. You got to go back and get the ones you missed last month. You got to go back and get the ones you missed last year. You got to keep on digging, because it's been way too much. And I also don't see reconciliation there. There are models of community policing that have worked in different places, but it only has worked because there's been a drastic change in the way that they operate, that they recruit, and that they work by. So like little performative things aren't going to do it. We might see the effects of painting a street in 20 years, but that's not going to stop somebody from dying tomorrow. That's not going to stop me from being killed later on the night. You know, like that's not going to stop that. Right. We need some things now.
Knocking on wood, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't mean to invite that, but it's a thought. It's a thought. It's always a thought. It's always a thought that is in my head. It's always a thought that's in my head. I remember reporting a crime, reporting someone being shot at. When the police asked me who I was and where I was afraid to tell them who I was and where I was because of what I've seen, because of what I've experienced, because of what's happened to the people that are close to me, because of the system of oppression that I know about. That's a lot to turn around, you know, and it's not going to happen in a couple months while we're under quarantine. Like, it's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take a lot of time that unfortunately I don't believe we have.
Yeah, this has been an awesome conversation. You guys have been really, really fantastic. Going a little deeper into the stories that you've shared with us before. I mean, this has been great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Do you guys have any final words?
Can I just be transparent about something? Because just like I say in my poem, I'm so sick of this conversation. And I feel like we talk and we talk and we talk and nothing's really happening. And a lot of things that we don't talk about, you know, because I hear this a lot from white counterparts, you know, here goes Black people complaining again, or here they go again, you know, type of thing. And it's a lot, oftentimes we don't even talk about Black mental health and all that we have carried, all this trauma, like literal nightmares, because I'm someone that feels everything. And when I think about all these stories, and even one like Kendrick Johnson, who's it was literally a modern day Emmett Till that happened to him, and how they just can get away with, like, I'm someone that has to believe that there is hope. So just like I said with my answer before with reconciliation, that if they can start showing us and doing things and making a difference, it can be possible. Now, I'm not someone that's naive, like how Bruce was saying, it's not going to happen in a couple of months, but I have to stand on hope that eventually something can change for my future children.
Yeah.
Because if I sit here and continue to have these nightmares about that baby, like someone like Kendrick, who was murdered in 2013, where these white people could take out his organs, wrap him up in a gym mat, and then say that he murdered himself. And they're just walking around living their lives. To see a picture today of one of Breonna Taylor's killers at the beach with his daughters, living their lives. Mental health, Black mental health is real. These are images that are constantly replaying in my head all the time. And thank God he created me to be an artist. I have some kind of outlet to put it to. But we are just walking around with trauma as Black people, not even mentioning our own personal life trauma that we go through as individuals, just as a Black person, and how the fact that me as a Black person, today, literally, I was at Starbucks working on my laptop and a white man was sitting there. Mind you, he did not have his mask on properly. There was a woman, I think she's a foreigner. She was speaking like a completely different language. I'm tuned in, working. She's happy. She's talking with her mask on. Out of nowhere, I just hear him yell at her, "Take that somewhere else." I turn, I'm like, what is happening? He said, "Hello, can you hear? You're not even a customer here. Take that somewhere else. Don't you know we're in the middle of a virus?" He said, "You effing a-hole." Cussed her out. And I'm sitting there looking at him like, bro, you don't even have your mask on. And what is her talking on the phone got to do with the virus? Like, it's just this idea now that when I walk outside, this whole notion of Karens and all this stuff, that I could literally just be doing nothing and they can create an entire story. And based on their story, I could be murdered. I wrote a poem called 10 about what happened to George Floyd. And in that poem, I even say the fact that they can make up stories and lies the things that you were taught not to do as a child, that grown people can literally just sit there and make up a lie and my life can end. Like, I don't feel like I'm making sense, but I feel like people don't just realize all this trauma that we're just living with. And like how I'm just sick of talking about this. Cause who needs to be on the side? Right now we got all these Black people on here while we're talking that are on the panel. I would have loved to have someone who is of a different race on this panel, because what we need is that conversation to happen. What is your perspective? Like, how do you, I really want to hear how you view me. Like, do you believe reconciliation can happen? Do you believe you're part of the problem? Can you admit to the moments where you're a bigot, when you're doing the little R racism? Like, oh gosh, guys, I feel like I just went off on a whole tangent.
No, and you were making perfect sense. And I hope I hope everybody listening to this and watching this, you hear those questions, you ask yourself those questions, and you continue asking those questions until you can come up with an answer. And do your work. Do your work. You have to work.
You know, to one of the points that you were saying, I will say, when I've gone out to protest in this time, I have seen, and I've also had other people comment to me to say how surprised they are at how diverse these protests are. And I was talking with this woman, my cousin's mother-in-law, who was in her 70s, I believe. And she was saying, I don't know, there's just, this time feels different. There's just something about this time. There's something about seeing how diverse these crowds are, because they were not like that when I was out there marching. I feel like there's something different. And I would say, Candace, I'm like you in that I need to believe that there's a better, because what are we doing? What's the point trying to educate people if we don't believe that people have the ability to grow and change? So that's how I have to look at it.
Right. Well, I definitely feel like, Candace, you feel like you're not making sense because the situation we're facing doesn't make sense. But all four of us that were listening to you, we understand you. I almost started crying to see my queens, my brother on here, all of us facing this. What I will say is that we are the legacy of our ancestors.
Yeah.
We will continue to fight. We are all artists. We are all able-minded people to keep the fight moving. And we have a responsibility to carry on. So no matter how bad the situation seems, how hopeless we seem, we always are powered by our ancestors, by our legacy as a people while we've been on this earth, and it's up to us to uphold that legacy.
Yep.
Thank you all, everybody. I think this is a good time for us to wrap this conversation. That is just starting here. I encourage you all to continue to have this conversation at home, have these conversations with your families, with the members of your circle, because that's one part of what we need to continue having in order to make some change happen, y'all. So follow Janae Williams, follow Dante Mitchell, follow Candace Nicholas Lippman. They got more to say, they got more to teach you, and you got more to hear. Thank you, Dana. Thank you, Dana, for joining us. Thank you for all the folks at KPCC and LAist that make Unheard LA possible, and to our extended Unheard LA family, thank you so much. Again, I say thank you, Dana. I'm here and Racing LA for being a part of this event and being a catalyst for more important conversations like these. We are eternally grateful to the California Wellness Foundation and for the generous support to Unheard LA from the very beginning. Our KPCC and LAist members, you make it all possible. Everybody has a story. What's yours? Y'all just share it with us at kpcc.org/unheardla. And when you're there, sign up for our newsletter. It's the best way to find out what's next. Speaking of which, we will be back for part 2 of A Deeper Listen a week from the day. So come back in and join us. We'll continue to have this conversation, and we're gonna get through more of this. Once again, thank you all for joining us. And remember, whatever you do, don't leave your story unheard. Bless you. Good night.